Thank you all once again for tuning into the Elle Scoop show. I'm so excited. I've got such an amazing show for you all today. One, we have author Mr. Tim Brown Sr., who's with us, who's the author of the book Boys Won't Be Boys, and this is an amazing book. It gears towards young men, and I'll let you tell me a little bit about the book. Tell me, first, what was your inspiration behind it? Inspiration behind the book,
Currently I have two sons, first off, and I've taught fifth grade boys. I also work for the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, so I work with young people all the time, particularly boys. Inspiration for the book was is to teach boys how to be uncommon in a common world. How everybody wants to be like everyone else. And we've kind of lost that uniqueness in boys, I feel. So inspiration for the book is just to help motivate boys to be uncommon.
Wonderful. Now you say uncommon. Give me an example. What do you mean by uncommon?
Probably a good example would be swagger.
All right, swag.
All boys think they have swag, you know.
Right.
And so what is swag, you know? And I share with boys, a guy who has uncommon swag knows that swag is not just the clothes you wear, but it's manners, style, and confidence. That's real swagger. That's uncommon swagger.
Wonderful. So you are uplifting boys and showing them how to live, not as boys, but as young men in society. That's wonderful. You know, these days, success is often measured by what we see on television. You know, how much money a person has, the kind of car they drive, and all these reality shows that we have out. And it seems like you are realigning that and kind of redefining what success is. What is success to you based on this?
Success from a boy's standpoint and a man's standpoint is your legacy. Success is not what you do here, but what do you leave behind. And so in the book, I talk about an uncommon name, how to protect your name. And I think we have to get back to boys and realize how valuable your name is. And that's the things you're going to leave for that next generation, for the people behind you, is your name, leaving that legacy.
Wonderful. Expound on that for me. When you say protecting your name, what is there to protect?
Oh, that's a great question. That's a great question. I look at, in the book, I talk about the Kennedys, the legacy of the Kennedy family. When you look at that family, you know, you think about politics and all the John Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, Ted Kennedy, and the legacy of that name. Then in sports, I get an analogy of the Manning family. You know, you got Peyton Manning and you have the other man. Two of those boys are NFL Super Bowl quarterbacks. And so how important that legacy is. And I think today, young men don't realize how important their name is. And what they do is they attach their name to the wrong things. And that's why they get involved in gangs. They get involved in behavior that's not conducive, that's not productive, because they don't feel attached to anything. And so my whole premise in the book is to get those guys to recognize that you have a name that's of value, and you have to add value to that name.
This book is coming out at a wonderful time. I mean, on the news, we've heard about the Trayvon Martin case. We've also heard about the Jordan Davis case that's come out. What do you tell your students when they hear about these tragic incidents that have gone on, that people often judge young men based on their perceptions of them?
That's a great question. I try to share with boys about value, how valuable they are. You know, I think we don't speak enough to these boys about how important they are to their families, to the community, how valuable they are. We kind of devalue these guys. You know, we see them with their pants off, you know, down, and we see them with all these things, and we begin to label them. And then the world doesn't know how valuable these young men are. And so I share with these boys how valuable you are. And I think once we get that value and that self-confidence, they begin believing in themselves. What we lost is, in the book, about being a dreamer. We don't have those dreamers anymore. You know, in the book I talk about YOLO, you know, Drake's song. You only live once. And these guys believe that. No.
You only die once, right? You only die once.
You know, and so we try to get them to understand that. That's why I go back to that legacy. You know, that you're here, but you're leaving something for somebody to build on. And so I think it's about value for young men.
Well, you mentioned dreams and dreaming, and oftentimes people don't reach what the world deems as success. You know, you have young men that are facing incarceration. You've got young men that have dropped out of school. You've got young men that are living in poverty. What do you say to them? Because this, to me, this book kind of gives the idea that you can be successful regardless of circumstance, and that there is a silver lining regardless of where you've been. What do you say to the people that are kind of diamonds in the rough?
I try to share with young men about, first, to understand your history, that you're not the only one who's in those situations. I sit here today not having a relationship with my father growing up. You know, now I have 2 boys. So where did I get all this from? You know, and I got it from the mentors or the men that in my life at school, teachers, coaches, and I share with parents, even parents as well. If a man's not around, you have to find someone for your boy. You know, a positive person in their life. And then with young boys, I'm talking about their peers. Okay. Your peer group is so important. Who you're around, who you associate with. They're going to determine where you go.
I do agree. I do agree. How do you change those things? How do you restructure an environment that you've come to know as home?
Well, you want me to do that in 1 minute?
Oh, well, you know, hey.
No, I really believe that. It really starts with, there's a premises I believe is a book that was written, is entitled, "It's Better to Build Boys Than Men," M-E-N-D. Men.
Okay.
And what we're doing a lot in this country, we're fixing men. If we would spend that same time in building up boys, we wouldn't have to fix men on the back end. Okay. And so I really stress to these boys. And in the book, I talk about a nation. See, inside every boy, there's a young man, then there's a man, and then there's a nation inside of you. And when we get them thinking about that nation building, I think they'll have a different perspective on life now. Hey, yes, you are a nation. Mm-hmm. You know, there's a nation in you. And I really believe when we speak, the Bible talks about life and death is in the power of the tongue.
Yes.
We believe we've been speaking too much death over young people. We have to begin to speak in life into their lives.
So much negativity at a young age.
Yes.
And they say that there's a great divide once a child reaches 4th grade. You know, their life path is kind of decided once they hit 4th grade on whether or not they'll go to college or whether or not they won't go to college or whether they'll be deemed quote unquote successful in life. And that's how a lot of schools are doing and speaking, I guess, death into students who never graduate high school. You know, and they grow up not knowing what their full potential is.
I really believe it's on us as men. And I'm really, in men's group, when I share with men, it's really on us as men to come alongside those young men and to encourage them, you know, and to be consistent in their life, you know. They need something, I think we talk about all the negative things, but there's a lot of positive things that are going on. And what we as men have to be is real with these young guys. We were once boys. We had challenges, but we were able to fight through those things because we were uncommon. We made a decision that we're going to be different. And any boy can make that decision at any time that you're going to be different. You're going to break the mold. You don't have to be like everybody else. And that's what this whole book is all about.
Listen, I want to encourage you all to check this book out. It's called Boys Won't Be Boys. And if boys aren't boys, they are men. They are men. They're growing up to be strong men. It is by Tim Brown Sr. And where can they purchase it? Is it Barnes & Noble and Amazon.com?
Yeah, Barnes & Noble, Amazon.com, and either go to the website.
Wonderful. You all be sure to do that. This is an excellent book. I think it's great not only for young boys, but honestly, after looking through it and hearing from a lot of people, I honestly believe that it's for everyone. There are lots of people that can take the principles that are inside this book and really change their life too. So thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate it. And you all continue to get scooped.